All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Fruits Basket, Season 1, Episode 18.
Man,
those last two episodes. Oh my god, man.
So good.
Oh, backstory with Toru and her mom. Oh my god. Kyoko, you're a legend.
Yep.
You're a legend.
And she really is a legend because she's gone. But, yeah. We'll probably be getting back into the present with this episode, I'm guessing. Because,
I mean, yeah, there was a good time with Uo and Hana and Toru and Gensi and kind of cooking food and stuff. But that was really important, I'd say, for us to have, like, as fast as possible. And I'm glad we finally got it, actually, because, like, Uo and Hana, as the sisters that Toru never had, are so precious. And even though, like, this was really just Uo focus, it means so much more to us now when we see them kind of spending time with Toru, because at the very least we know that Uo and Hana probably share no real like secrets about how they're going to be, there for Toru. So
right. In this show about family, if we're going to get to know the new family that is the Somas, we need to also get to know the old family. Even if mom's dead, that doesn't mean Toru doesn't have it.
Yeah, exactly. So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Oh my god, this was a good, simple episode. Oh,
this
love
was
it.
Incredible, fantastic.
Wonderful.
Love it.
So like Yuki and Kisa, we get to have a breaking down of one of the very, very widely accepted societal views on the idea of weakness. The idea that when someone is weak, they are worse. And when someone is stronger, they are better. So what is the point of weakness? Well, there is no point other than to improve past it. No. The point is that it brings other people around you who will accept you and love you and give of their excess that they have to give, because everyone has a different, unique thing that they can give. Not everyone can be Toru, who's just gushing forth with love. Sometimes we're Kyo, and we don't really have something that's immediately able to give because we're like, oh, I'm not in the right place for that.
Exactly, and that's where the letter from the homeroom teacher had a lot of stuff that was accurate and can be helpful, but wasn't helpful in this context.
Was not helpful at all.
The idea that you can't expect people to be Toru, right? Like that's not something that you can expect, especially from just random strangers and stuff, right?
Yep. People need to be loved first before they know how to love.
Exactly.
And this is something that I think is important about the cause-effect relationship here, the idea that the teacher bringing up the idea of, if you find things to love about yourself, it'll be easier for others to love you.
Right. Self-worth is important.
There is an element of this that is true, but it's the point of that this is not applicable here. Right. This doesn't apply here at all. Like
because one, she's a kid. Good. She's not going to be able, she's not going to. You shouldn't expect her to be the one to I'm going to love myself first and foremost, so that way I can basically have boundaries for the interactions that I have with other people.
I want to preface something. I think the kid part matters zero.
Oh, okay.
Look at Yuki. Yuki is the parallel here. It doesn't matter about his age here. This exact same instance applies to him. He would not have been able to go through this process that he's been going through if it wasn't for Toru loving and accepting him.
Exactly. Yeah. And in this case with the Soma family, one of the reasons that it makes it work so well in like the structure of the storytelling is because they all have basically very complicated family situations, and that's why the story being about family is so important. And then Toru, as the main character, can kind of be that one that brings the love in for all of them. And even though
she's the light,
right, she's the light, and she still has her own issues. She can't do everything herself. She will just go up and get bitten again. Literally right after it happened. Right, and try and just pretend that that's okay,
and also that it was shocking that it happened.
Right, yeah.
There's some things you can get into with that are pretty cool. But let's focus on the main thing here, which is that holy shit, they did a really good job here of exploring this dynamic via Kisa, so that Yuki can share his true self finally with us, the audience, but also in some measure with Toru. That little bit where he's like, hey, I'm a bit jealous of Kisa. I just want to lean on someone and
Right.
have them tell me that it's going to be okay. That is so powerful. That, I would say, that is something that is not just like a kid thing.
Oh,
that goes up to people in their like 50s.
Well, and that's why this lesson I feel like is so important, because there's elements of the lesson of, hey, it's okay to be weak, that that people will understand, because if you're young, then of course, right, that's just sort of how it goes, because you're a kid, right? But then you're kind of missing the point of the lesson, and then then suddenly, what do you do when it's 10 years later, right? And you still don't know how to properly deal with it, right? So it's like the fact that like this episode, not only was it fantastic, and I super enjoyed it from the standpoint of like the writing and everything, but just with how it was packed together. Yeah,
it was a very tight, simple.
It was a very tight, simple episode, and I love simplicity in storytelling, but it was also something that had a lot in it, right? Like I would not have been surprised if this had been like a double episode, right? And the whole bit with when like Toru is talking to Kisa and then the mom shows up and everything, right? That felt like it could have been like an episode climax, right? Where it's like, okay, she stays with them for a while, all this stuff, and you build up the parallel with Yuki, because normally when I would think of like a single episode for a character, I would think it to be something where it just focuses on the one character. Introducing a character is already something that can take a lot of time in a story, and having them progress and have development is also something that takes time. We got that in addition to then setting up the parallel with Yuki, which is something that we have needed for a while, because it's something that's been hinted at, but because of Yuki's character, it's not something that will come about easily. Right.
And I think that's why they did it in the one episode, is because Yuki just kind of started here. He didn't have a resolution, really. Yeah. One of the things that's really powerful about this episode is the way it ended, in that they were saying that like the fear's not gone.
Nope.
The body is still trembling at the idea of doing this, terrified even.
Yeah.
But it's in spite of that, the desire to move past it, the desire to live in the light, to move out of that corner and step into maybe a bit of the scariness that life has, means that, she, Kisa, but also Yuki can take this next step. Yep. Now, what I really liked is that Yuki didn't go back to Akito with some kind of like confrontation thing.
Yeah, because he's not ready for that.
Because I was like, wait, are we really going to do that? No. He's going to run for student council president.
Right. He's going to do something that he knows he can do, that isn't going to, like, he's not going up to the
past president, but whatever.
Or one of those two. I think it's student council. I could be wrong, but it's not something where he's going up to the tiger again specifically to get bit, right? Like that's not what he's doing, because he probably knows that if he were to do that, he would not be able to support himself. He would not be able. He would not be able to handle it, right? But student council, this is something where I'm taking charge of my life. I'm doing that kind of stuff. But it's separate from Akito. It's separate from the whole Soma family.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I am willing to accept the fact that, yes, I am weak, but I can still be a leader in spite of my weakness. One of the things that I really, really like about Toru as a main character, and this is something that I feel like Toru doesn't even understand about herself, is that she is so strong, not because she has no weakness, but because of how she acts in spite of all this.
Yeah.
I think that a part of this strength comes from an unhealthy denial of her need for help. Her willingness to be vulnerable and be like, I could really use, just also to be accepted and loved in a extra special way today, because I happen to be feeling, all the pain and stuff of all the stuff that happened in my past, rather than apologizing and being like, no, it's okay. Don't worry about me. Don't let me burden you or anything like that.
Or just something as simple as, yes, when you bit my hand, that hurt.
Right.
Like
that's the thing I could get into with that a lot. I know you could as well, is that the idea of her going and letting it bite her, like, and being surprised by that, but then also going again and being like, but leaving her hand there, not trying to pull it out. There's an aspect of this of where she's maybe subconsciously trying to tell Kisa is that she can handle the pain of whatever is in Kisa's life. But that's another example of where Toru would rather be the one that takes other people's pain upon herself rather than helping them have that pain be exercised out and that they can both look at it as a third party, so that it's not something that has to be, because empathy is important, and I understand how like valuable that is, but there is a healthy manner of boundaries in that when someone else is in a really rough place, you don't need to imbibe that thing that they have been carrying, or what have you, however you describe it.
Because then it can end up just pulling you down, and it's something where I wouldn't have been surprised if this ended up coming up in the story of Kisa, seeing that Toru is like, hey, it's okay, right? You know, your barbs, I can handle it, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's you're not letting yourself be real with the pain that you get as a result of my issues. Therefore, I will pull back even more.
Yeah, and that's a concept I think is a bit too high for Kisa.
Yeah, probably.
We get it, but
it's something where, like, I love how this show continues to reinforce the characters and their own issues and strengths at the same time.
Yeah,
because the line that was
a large cast.
It's a large cast, so you kind of have to do that. But just because that's kind of what you have to do doesn't mean that that's easy to do.
No.
And the line that was, or when they were talking about I don't feel like I've gotten stronger, right? It's just that my attitude about things has changed.
Right.
That's kind of the definition of strength, but that's a different kind of strength. There's the strength where it's you're so strong that it's like, nothing's a big deal, right? The strong person that can lift a weight without it feeling heavy because they're strong, right? But then it's oh no, what about the strength to keep going when things are hard, right? That's what Kisa had to deal with here. That's what Yuki has to deal with. And, well, they're definitely growing there.
Yeah. I love that this is also Yuki saying this because he's the main character in terms of like, because Kisa was brought in kind of as like we need to keep filling out the Zodiac, so this is a expediency thing of getting to know all of them as fast as possible, but having them each get their own episode focus, but comboing it with someone who's a part of the main cast that needs to have their character developed in some way, and this is Yuki's kind of episode in addition to being Kisa's, but having that be a thing that he says, given that we are, emphasizing a little bit the idea that Kisa's still not, going to talk as much necessarily.
Yeah, she's still young. She doesn't fully understand all of this stuff, but she's starting to go into motion.
Right. But Yuki being the one to say this means more because of all the extra added context we have with regards to his character because of the time we've spent with him. So if this is the development that Yuki is going to be moving in the I will allow my weakness to be shown so that I can have a similar situation with what happened with Kisa here, and thus accept that part of myself. Because I really liked the idea that we had doubly confirmed that this was the thing that was going on with Kisa, but also with Yuki from the past because of probably some Akito shenanigans, is that he isolated himself first.
Right.
But then after that, he then started feeling the shame and embarrassment of being in this state.
Right. And the cyclical nature of that.
And how that's, exactly. That perpetuates itself. And what I really feel like is powerful here is that we never really saw that version of Yuki in the show. Like, that is something that is always a past thing that happened then.
Right. We know it existed, but we don't actually get to see it, almost like it's being avoided by some of the people that know about it.
Right. And specifically when it gets brought up as being a potential thing, it is brought up in the present tense, though, as a wound that happened, but the effects of it are still ongoing. So we're almost getting a confirmation that Yuki's present state still deals with this shit at a level that is, in some ways, effectively at where Kisa was. But because Toru was brought into the situation, he's been rather radically shifting his perspective not his perspective, but his character has shifted. And yet he still holds on to that almost in a ashamed, embarrassed way in the dark.
Well, to use the example of Kisa not talking. Now they mentioned that Yuki specifically also started not talking, right?
Yeah.
So that's a more direct parallel, right?
And that was when he was a lot younger.
Yeah, that was when he was a lot younger.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, what's happening now is a form of him not talking.
Sure.
Because he is basically leaving the conversation of the Soma family, right?
Yep.
He is separating himself from them. It's a good decision, right? It's a good decision.
Yep.
But
Same with Shigure.
Yeah, same with Shigure. But with what's being set up, there's probably going to come that point where then Yuki ends up realizing he develops the strength within himself, and he goes back to face the Soma family, to face Akito, and he and it's where he's prove to himself what he feels in his heart, but then also to the rest of them that you don't hold sway over me anymore, right?
Right. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and he takes the first little step with, I'm going to run for student council president.
Yeah, I feel like this episode kind of teased for us what will either be like the season 1 finale of the show with regards for Yuki's character, or like just the series finale for Yuki's character, like his series resolution or season resolution.
like his character arc resolution potentially.
Yeah, and what's really cool about that, I would say, in a little respect, is that it kind of builds up a little bit of a thing that goes beyond the romance connection.
Yes.
Is that it actually builds up this idea that in some ways he might not be into Toru in the like romantic sexual kind of way. Yep. It's that he's actually in love with this person that accepted him.
Right.
He is reciprocating and is in some ways maybe like Kisa, following her around. And I'm like, wait a minute. Was this kind of thing of what happened here with Kisa just a more dramatic, simplified representation of what's been going on with Toru and Yuki?
Sure. I mean, you could say that that's kind of what's been happening with like most of the Soma family, right? Because that's the kind of energy that Toru carries with her.
Yeah, some of them are a little bit more specific with it, like Momiji.
Yeah.
And maybe Kyo. But I would say most of them are just enjoying being present around her.
Right, exactly. With Momiji, it doesn't necessarily have to be something where Toru's bringing in her healing, but it's, hey, you're a fun person. I really like hanging around with you and all that stuff.
And also she's a female who is older than him that provides a little bit of that.
Oh, what? No, there's
motherly connection.
There's no way that does.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it at all.
And nothing like that happened with Kisa this episode at all.
Yeah,
definitely not.
But I just love that this is a uniquely also more accentuated Yuki thing because of the romantic connection.
Right. It's something where this kind of connection between the two of them, if that kind of foundation is where you could totally see it blossoming into romance and having it have a really healthy foundation, but also potentially not.
Or just the idea that if Yuki was to become fully healed and resolved within himself, he actually wouldn't need Toru.
Sure.
They would be way more equal in their relationship dynamic.
Ooh, and that could be another parallel here in that, because like one of the things that we were wondering is this going to be where Yuki ends up leaving and going back to the Soma family? Because a lot of the things that Toru was saying with regards to Kisa and being okay with her leaving, I'm going to miss her, but I'm glad that she's, being able to go and do things on her own. That's something that Yuki will probably need to do as well.
Yeah,
and that could be really hard because we've had situations in the past where the notion of them splitting up, not just Yuki and Toru, but Kyo and Shigure,
Yuki basically
everybody.
being kind of not necessarily wrested from that situation, but him potentially choosing to, get out of here.
Sure, yeah. That in addition to just the whole thing of like, will Toru decide to stay with us and all that,
right?
And I love it because with seeing this series about a bunch of broken people that are healing in their own ways
and finding family
and the balm that Toru is in their lives and that they also are in her life, even though she still hasn't really necessarily figured that out fully yet.
Yep.
We need to have that moment of basically independence, right? So that way they can come back together and be interdependent, right? So that it doesn't become something that ends up being dysfunctional, because there are aspects of Toru's own dysfunction that is helpful right now, but we don't necessarily want that to stay that way.
Yeah, things will evolve and adapt based on that being eventually not needed.
Right.
And I feel like that's a cool like thing to almost feel like it's foreshadowing for the future, in that Yuki's character will eventually not need Toru as much.
Yep.
If that happens, will that change some of his feelings about her?
Sure.
Because I really do feel like one of the things that I've seen in like real life dynamics and stuff like that is that when a character or person, sorry, that's real life. So
Yeah.
a person like Yuki exists, one of the things that is a very helpful but unhealthy pattern if it goes on too long is basically saying that one person is their reason for living, existing,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
they become basically what I would call like a little duckling, just following them around. People are not perfect. People will fail you.
Sure.
Therefore, Yuki, eventually you will need to move on from Toru in this role manner.
Right.
And in that respect, I'm glad that Toru is such an exception to the rule in terms of her bountiful goodness that he is being absolutely just transformed by this. But eventually,
Yeah.
he will need to, for her sake and his sake,
Exactly.
move on.
Because thankfully Toru is such an anomaly in this regard.
Yes.
That it's not going to cause issues
Immediately.
in the immediate,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because it totally could. It totally could. I have like I have personal
I have
experience
been
with
on
this.
both ends of this
exactly,
dynamic.
right?
Yeah.
Where and it's not something where it has to, like, it can sneak up on you, right? Where you're like, yes, I want to help this person. I empathize, strongly with this person.
Yep.
But then you end up realizing I actually I wasn't capable of handling that, right?
Something about this is something I'm not handling in a healthy way. Therefore, my needs aren't getting met. Oh my God, I need to create boundaries here.
And then suddenly,
and then it creates all this awkwardness because the communication isn't
Yep.
being done as well, because both the people aren't doing that in a healthy way either.
it gets
all kinds of stuff.
sorts of complicated.
Right. So I'm more thinking like, for now, we're good.
Yep.
But in the like long-term side of things, I could see this being a thing where Toru could get hurt by Yuki
Sure.
by this whole thing spiraling, but also it being a thing that leads towards him moving in a healthy direction.
Sure. Because, like, Toru could also, I mean, I'm sure she does, she also gets joy and energy from being able to be this for people. Right? Like, she totally does.
Oh, she absolutely does.
Like there's a reason why she, chased after Kisa and was like, yeah, bite my hand, right?
Yeah.
Because she really does, she is helped by this, right? But Toru is the main character, not Yuki.
Yep.
And I would not be surprised if this series ended with, like, Yuki gets his whole arc, he figures things out and everything like that. He grows and he learns how to become separate from Toru.
Right,
And
so that they can reconnect.
So that they can reconnect.
Yeah.
But before that can happen, maybe Toru has to figure out things on her own. And the coming of age story, like that this is the sort of the, like, there's something poetic about the fact that this will need to change, that this sort of
cannot continue
perfect crystal
forever.
little, thing that we have here is going to break apart at some point. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a permanent thing. It can get, rebuilt into something wonderful and beautiful and new, but it cannot be stagnant.
Yes.
So
there we go.
yeah.
So yeah, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.